Hi, I'm Daniel, I'm a sleep physician, and if you have insomnia, this channel is for you. Today, a reply to a viewer who has started CBT, did really well week 1, now has trouble initially falling asleep. Probably to a large extent because his bed partner temporarily is not at home. We're going to look at how he can best get back on track. Super nice having you back. Hope you're doing fantastic today. And we are, as mentioned, going to look at an email from a viewer that for now didn't want to share his real name. I'm just going to call him Nick. Just for a little bit of background, I think we've been in contact, maybe 20, 30 years. Oh, it's been, about 2-3 weeks or so. And he is somebody who had like a little bit of trouble sleeping for a long time. The past 8 months, had a lot of trouble falling asleep. I think he found my channel and not exactly remember why, or how, but started like self-directed CBT, mainly, spending less time in bed, and really did well week 1 and now has a little bit of trouble. And so with that said, let's jump in and read this. Daniel, I wanted to ask a question about stimulus control. As I shared with you, the first week my CBTi went really well, but the asterisk is that I was still depending on sleeping next to my wife. With her out of town for a few weeks, I used this as an opportunity to try and break that sleep dependency. I also decided, maybe not a smart idea, to further challenge it by staying at my parents' house, who live nearby, as I have some further issues when traveling for work. So figured I would double up. Maybe I was a little overconfident based on week 1. Point being that I'm definitely going backwards, but I do see a silver lining. I haven't had a night with less than 3 hours of sleep in over 2 weeks. Even though the last 6 nights have averaged 4 hours and last night 3 hours, for the most part, my mindset is fully on that I can't control if I can fall asleep. My body will go to sleep when it's ready. I've also listened to a couple of your podcasts to realize that this may be the yo-yo or the extinction burst. So point is to keep going with it. We'll touch on that later, but absolutely right. The question I have is related to stimulus control. My biggest challenge with sleep is initially falling asleep. The initial mind racing about sleep has me in hyperarousal mode. The second I put my head on the pillow, and about 90% of the time, I need to get up and out of bed after about 30 to 45 minutes. It's almost like that first stimulus control event is part of my sleep routine, which makes me feel like stimulus control is somewhat contradictory. While I understand that you want to get out of bed to remove the negative sleep association with the bed, it cuts into an already shortened sleep restriction window. So when I lay down after a couple of stimulus control sessions, I'm left with 4.5 hours to sleep, and my mind is already nervous that, geez, that's a short window. Now in week 1, this wasn't an issue as I was falling asleep pretty quickly, but I backtracked a bit in week 2, so trying to get some advice to get back on track. Eventually I do fall asleep, but I'm trying to figure out how to reason with myself that the stimulus control is necessary. Any ideas here? Secondly, is my sleep restriction window. So I generally keep my sleep restriction window 11:30 p.m. to 6 a.m. But because I'm not falling asleep at 11:30 for the last 7 days, should I make my window later, like 1 a.m. to 7 a.m.? So first of all, the thing that's really exciting here is that the first week went so well. That's really, really exciting because a lot of people, it takes them several weeks before they even start seeing benefits. Typically 2 to 3 weeks in, people start noticing things. So that's good, and that just shows us that you don't have a broken sleep switch. Nothing's wrong. You can sleep, but then things changed. Your wife left town. I think she's out for a couple of weeks, and now still, like always, and you're already doing this, so this is partly for anybody else tuning in, always focus on the positive things. That's always good, and I know you're already doing that. And you said that maybe this is the yo-yo phase or extinction burst. Just to clarify that, what happens to most people, I'd say, to start treating their insomnia using the CBTi techniques that I always talk about here, is that the first week is kind of like crazy. Like they may not sleep at all one night, then you get 5 hours, then you get 3 hours, or that you get into this pattern of like I sleep 6 hours, then 4 hours, then 0, then 6, things like that. That is kind of normal. So that's just to clarify that. Now, to get to more of the question here is What should you do if you just can't initially fall asleep? Your mind is racing, that you end up like going to bed, getting out of it, etc. Well, one thing that struck me was like I get out of bed after 30 to 45 minutes. I'm guessing that the minute you go to bed and you head hits the pillow, your mind is like turbo mode, it's just racing in there. You already know that you're probably not gonna fall asleep there. So one question becomes, when you go to bed, do you feel sleepy? Do you feel as if you're about to fall asleep? If you're not, then don't go to bed. Never go to bed unless you feel like, yeah, I'm probably gonna fall asleep. Now, if you go to bed and you immediately feel like this is it, I'm too tense, this is not gonna work, then don't wait 30 to 45 minutes. In fact, that's too long, because you're already creating this negative association that we're talking about. But I totally understand the question, because if you do this in and out of bed, that's not necessarily helpful, and that may be because you're actually spending, even doing stimulus control, you may be spending too much time in bed. So getting more practical here, what's the best way forward? Well, I think this is good. If you're not feeling sleepy at, let's say, 11:30, then don't go to bed. That's kind of one thing. And a strategy that I talk a lot about often is called like ditch the clock time strategy, which I think is really good. And in using that, you would do something like this, that 11 p.m. or let's say 10:30 p.m., you just completely stop watching the time and only go by like emotion. You just, if you're feeling like kind of tense, you stay up. If you're feeling sleepy, you go to bed, but you don't know what time it is. You're only going by emotion. The only fixed time point is that, let's say 6 a.m. where you have a clock set for. That unawareness of what time it is can be so helpful. And that applies to stimulus control too. If you feeling like you don't know what time it is, but you feel like, I think I feel sleepy now, you go to bed, I couldn't fall asleep, then, you leave the bed, but you don't check what time it is or how long it is taking you. You just completely go by emotion. That is good. And that, in a very similar technique to that, is when you wake up and you feel like you can't go back to sleep, or you're not sure, should I leave the bed or not? Then you can just do mental imagery, like you're in bed, but you're kind of imagining something pleasant. And if your mind goes to that pleasant space, then just stay. You're probably gonna go back to sleep. If you feel frustrated, then leave. So I hope that was helpful, that tip. And then the other one was like, should I move my sleep window? Definitely, I would not say it's a good idea to do the 1 a.m. to 7 a.m. because then you're shifting your wake up time. I think it's good to like keep that 6 a.m. thing going. I think it's reasonable to do like, let's do 12 to 6 instead, because you're having trouble falling asleep initially. But I think a better idea is the ditch the clock time strategy. I think that's generally better. And like big picture, and I know this is kind of going in a different direction, but big picture is like the less you react to insomnia always is better. But I think what I talked about is not actually, is like a helpful way to react to it. So I think that's no problem. So hope this was helpful to you, Nick, and anybody else that's tuning in. And oh yeah, now I remember what I was gonna say. I didn't check what name that was on that comment, which was actually, you know what? We have a few seconds here. Let me check. There was somebody who left a really nice comment. Oh yeah, David Arado. I was gonna make a video on your comment today, but this came up, so tomorrow I'm gonna do that. Okay, with that said, please leave comments. Love those, because that's the life of this channel. That's what keeps it helpful. So love those, and I'll be back tomorrow. Okay, thank you. Bye bye.